Arcane Season 3. We have confirmed already. If you haven't seen that, you know, go back to if you're on YouTube, my previous video. If you're looking at like the articles, I'll link to this as well. This is the Demacian in the spotlight. We know that Demacia is pretty likely next, honestly, with the Katarina hint. I'll play these really quick just to remind you guys, a little refresher.
And watch.
It's pretty
Katarina,
quiet.
we have a whole backstory that I won't get too far into because there's some things there.
So clearly Katarina has a future at Fortiche. This is a Riot Games and Fortiche storytelling League of Legends. This guy on the right is from Fortiche, as is the lady in the middle. The guy on the left is from Riot Games. And so clearly Katarina has something to do with Fortiche. And then this was a little slip of the tongue.
What about like cutting the music? Because we wanted to emphasize so much on the fight, this epic fight between Darren and Darius.
So he says, instead, he's supposed to be talking about Trundle and Darius. Instead, he says Garen and Darius. So it's interesting that Garen and Darius are on his mind. Katarina apparently has a big part to play in the story Fortiche is telling. We know that Fortiche is going to be telling stories in...
Okay, I'll give you a little something, because someone says, give us a hint on the next show.
This was the literal co-creator of Arcane saying what's coming next.
Just because I want to make sure that...
there are expectations.
So I'll tell you this.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. When I looked at there was like 2 or 3 bigger threads on Reddit when people were like, oh, like they're gonna do more shows, more movies. What would be the focal points, right? Pretty much all the like top voted directions are the ones.
This is what he says here.
Okay.
So we are investing quite a bit in Noxus, Ionia, Demacia.
Look at his reaction to Demacia, man. Does he have insider information? I kept saying that. I don't know.
Okay.
He might, guys. Look, I just don't. The Netcrit really reacted when he said Demacia differently than when he said Noxus and Ionia. So I don't know if he like has someone maybe told him like we're working on Demacia, but he's not allowed to say anything. But and then I said, you know, Noxus already got its time in the spotlight. They worked on Noxus, a Fortiche cinematic, the bite marks. This is also a Fortiche cinematic. You see Xin Zhao at the end. And then things are just lining up. There's also a live action in Bilgewater. This is different. This is a continuation of the animated series Arcane. In tandem to that, they're also working on a live action in Bilgewater, separate from Fortiche. Fortiche is an animation studio. They're not involved in the live action. I think we can all agree that Demacia is very likely next. So, what would the Arcane Season 3 Demacia lore look like? Echoes of Arcane. Why a Demacia series is the perfect successor to Arcane. After the masterpiece that was Arcane, which brought the dual cities of Piltover and Zon to life, which with breathtaking depth, fans have been speculating which corner of Runeterra deserves the same treatment. The answer may lie in the gleaming white stone kingdom of Demacia, a nation founded on ideals of justice and honor, now teetering on the brink of civil war. I love these arts from the Realms of Runeterra book. This is Demacia. This is where Demacia is located, and Demacia is not a land of steampunk innovation like we saw in Piltover and Zon, but of old world politics. It's really stark between going from Piltover to Zon to Demacia is like traveling back in time in a lot of ways. There's a simmering rebellion, a deep-seated hypocrisy, and its story is a powder keg of personal drama and political intrigue, making it the perfect setting for a multi-season narrative that starts with intimate character struggles and explodes into a realm-spanning conflict. There's just some places. There's like the Hall of Valor where fallen Demacian warriors are remembered for their sacrifice. And this is a landmark. This is a Demacian like wallpaper background for their the cover page. Here's some art from Legends of Runeterra. The first time she saw the altar of Cithria, Cithria found herself at a loss for words. For a while, she could only stand in awe of the majesty of those honored heroes. Would she ever be bold enough to stand by their side? And you can see this place here. These are just some locations. There's an altar. This one is the Mage Seeker's place towered petricite. This is a petricite obelisk. Throughout their compounds, ensuring that even the strongest mages are rendered completely powerless. And that's what petricite does. It's a magic dampener. And this is like showing one of the crown guards, Tiana crown guard, facing an army here. Tiana looked out over the assembly, assessing the gathered ranks. The only sound in the square was her banner snapping in the breeze. She gave a curt nod of approval, then lifted the banner with a shout. "Who among you is ready to fight for Demacia?" The resounding cry from all those assembled shook the very mountain. So that's like kind of giving you a vibe of Demacia. So now Demacia is a kingdom in turmoil. Following the sudden death of King Jarvan III, the other noble families have not yet approved the succession of his sole heir, young Prince Jarvan, to the throne. Some did or whisper that the golden age of Demacia has passed, and unless its people are willing to adapt to a changing world, something many believe they are simply incapable of, the kingdom's decline may be inevitable, and all the patricide in the land will not protect Demacia from itself. This image is from the short story Turmoil, and you can see Demacia is not doing so great in present-day lore. Here's a look at how the turmoil could unfold in an animated series grounded entirely in the rich, established lore of Demacia. Season 1, I think, would be The Gilded Cage. Like Arcane, the story must begin with a tight personal focus. The grand politics of Demacia are as a consequence of the secrets and lies within a single family, the Crown Guards. The season would be character-driven drama exploring the Gilded Cage of Demacia. For example, this is Tiana Crown Guard, who's actually Garen and Lux's aunt. This is her Legends of Runeterra guard, and she says, "Our house is bled for this realm. You'll not throw away this family's honor for a few tricks of light." So she knows that Lux is a mage, and she's not too happy about it. She's telling her, "You'll not throw away like our legacy." And this is actually her husband. He's over here on the left. That's Lord Eldred Crown Guard, who's actually the leader of the Mage Seekers. And I have a theory that he literally married her just to get into the Crown Guard family and for power. He said, "I couldn't help but overhear your fervent whispering, dear wife. I advise you to exercise more caution when discussing family members in so public a place. You can never be certain who might be listening." And I always feel like when someone says something like this, that's usually because, like, you know, if someone says other people are really nosy and you need to be careful of other people listening, that's because they're like that. So I feel like Lord Eldred is probably like extremely nosy, listening, kind of evil, conniving. He's the leader of the Mage Seekers, which is a dangerous organization. We'll get into them if you don't know their lore. But his wife, he's referring to Tiana Crown Guard. So you kind of get like the other side of this scene. A family divided by duty and fear. The season would introduce a young Garen and Luxana Crown Guard. Garen is the perfect son of Demacia, inseparable from the friend Prince Jarvan IV, and committed to the ideals of the kingdom. So this is Jarvan. Garen, the might of Demacia, is a proud noble soldier, and he fights at the head of the Dauntless Vanguard. You have Lux, his sister, who is able to bend light to her will. She grew up dreading the discovery and exile. So she's like in this noble family. Think about it. Like how compelling would that be if Arcane sets you up? Think Vi, Jinx, all these characters started out very young. Echo, I loved seeing Echo as a kid and seeing where they come from and what made them like grow up to what they are today. And then imagine that with like Garen, Lux, and then King Jarvan III, or the fourth, who's like the king's only son. Prince Jarvan is heir apparent to the throne, and their love for Demacia, but at the same time, they kind of grapple with Demacia's politics and the Demacian way of thinking about mages and magic, because Lux obviously doesn't agree with it. She is a mage. But the Mage Seekers are literally imprisoning mages at this time, just throwing them in jail if you have an ounce of magic. And we'll get into why and how that's possible and what the result is in a little bit. But just know that Demacia doesn't like mages. And so Garen, his sister being a mage, Lux being a mage herself, and King Jarvan IV King Jarvan IV is in love with a dragon. So all three of these characters probably don't agree with the direction Demacia is going in, and to see them kind of grow into that in the future from their childhood and see what events take place would be really cool. But beneath the stoic exterior lies a deeply buried trauma and denial concerning his sister. The story of the Soldier and the Hag gives us a crucial flashback to their childhood, revealing Garen's core conflict. When a memory-stealing crone probes his mind, she finds more than just love for his sister. I love this story, by the way. If you've never read it, The Soldier and the Hag, it'll make you love Garen. It really will. Garen's a beast. But he goes like to find this witch who's basically killing people and stealing their memories, and he confronts her. And he lets the witch take one memory of his in order to save one of his soldiers. And this is the witch is like feeling through his mind. She felt his intense love for her mixed with something else. She's finding his memories of Lux. Fear? Is it disgust? Discomfort? and then like it flashes forward. We're going to skip forward a little bit to the memory that she's actually digging into now. So she's starting to feel like this weird kind of emotions about Lux, and then she finds this memory. Upset, the girl shouts, and suddenly there is light shooting from her fingertips, and he is blinded and confused and frightened. She is taken away by their mother. But before their mother leaves the room, she kneels and tells the boy that he didn't see what he thought he saw. It wasn't real, just a game. The boy, his mouth agape, nods. Just a game. His sister is not a mage. She couldn't be. He pushes the memory as deep as it could go. This singular event defines their relationship. Garen's life becomes an exercise in willful ignorance, his gnawing suspicion from his biography alone, clashing with his desperate need to protect his sister and his family's honor. Like Garen lives to serve Demacia. He loves Demacia. He's even seen imprisoning mages a lot of times, like sending them to jail. And yet his sister is a mage, and he has to grapple with this fact. Do you think the Demacia's story with Garen and Lux are in the same time frame as Vi and Jinx come up? Yeah, I do think so. So I think that it would start at the same time. So Piltover and Zon, you start with them as kids, and during that time, we know. So timeline, a little bit on timeline. Mbessa over here goes to Kumangra and takes over Kumangra from an Ionian village. This is all while Mel is still a child, before the events of Piltover and Zon. She goes to Kumangra, gets the Vastaya. She heads to Balzun, Tereshni. Rockrun is where the Medarda home is. She eventually gets up to Noxus and presents the Vastaya that she found in Kumangra to Borum Darkwill, and that's their way into Noxus. And then she realizes that Mel's in danger, and she sends Mel to Piltover and Zon to almost push her away, because Mbessa starts realizing that the Black Rose is a big deal, and they've actually killed her husband and her son. Well, they haven't killed her son yet, but her children. She's worried for her children, and that they're threatening. Like, she feels like they're closing in around her son. So she sends Mel to Piltover and Zon to almost make it look like she has nothing to do with them. Like, Mel means nothing to me. Don't pay her any mind. Then we have the Noxus Ionian War. That happens during like either it happens between season 1 and season 2 during the time skip, or it happens before Arcane starts. I can't tell 100% when that happens, but sometime during Arcane season 1 or season 2, either during the time skip of Arcane season 1, season 2, during Arcane season 1, or right before Arcane, there's the Noxian Ionian War. Then Arcane season 1 happens, and Vi and all of them are kids. And I think at that same time, Garen, Lux, and King Jarvan IV would all be kids here. Xin Zhao, all of them. The reason I think that is because King Jarvan IV is the one, King Jarvan III and King Jarvan IV, Xin Zhao serves under both of them. And we know that King Jarvan IV is the one who sends Xin Zhao over to Ionia. So that lines up. So that makes sense that, like, okay, if Xin Zhao is alive currently in the present day lore, that means Garen, Lux, and King Jarvan IV are all adults, and King Jarvan III already died. That means the Demacian Noxian War already happened. You know what, guys? This got so complicated, me explaining the timeline, that I think I need an article. So I'm going to do an article for the complete timeline of Runeterra from the beginning all the way through the events of Arcane, all the way to like Demacia present day, and then I'll do like a future speculation. So we'll go up to like present day according to the lore with Xin Zhao and Ionia and where Demacia is at. But I think if you knew the lore ahead of me talking, you understood what I was saying. But that already happened too, the Noxian Ionian War. Then there'll be a time skip so we'll start with them as kids around the same time as over here with Vi and Jinx's kids. And then the time skip will happen after after you establish the ground rules of like the mage seekers and all this. The time skip will happen, and that's when you'll see what's coming up, which is King Jarvan IV's dad being killed and stuff like that. It would be cool if the news of Victor and the glorious evolution reaches Demacia, and that catalyst for the story going forward. Maybe the persecution of mages itself becomes of it, perhaps. I feel like they could definitely have Piltover and Zon tie in to Demacia. Jinx, we know, is floating around. Jinx, we know, is alive. She could very well end up in Demacia. It's possible. One thing that I will say about the thing that would tie most into Demacia is the Arcane waking up. LeBlanc says all the time, like, the Arcane is waking up. And we know Demacia, not big fans of magic. So I feel like that would be a big pull for them. All right, let's get back to the article. So at this point, we've already had the time skip. They're adults now, so we're through season 1. This is now season 2. So like we've established Demacia, the framework, the characters. You're grounded in Demacia. You understand what Demacia is about. You probably, I would say, like the beginning story maybe deals with, season 1 deals with more like with Tiana, Lux and Garen's parents, their uncle dying to a mage, Lord Eldred Crown Guard. Like it'll deal more with these characters adults, and Lux and Garen are children, as well as Jarvan. It'll deal with Jarvan the Third too. So King Jarvan the Fourth's dad. So now this is a comic showing Garen and Lux riding, and she says, and if they are, what do we send them to the hinterlands? Because a lot of times they'll just exile mages to the hinterlands. If they'll either exile them to the hinterlands or literally imprison them. And Garen's like, it's for the best. They won't hurt anyone there. She says, they're not hurting anyone here, unless someone tries to chase them down in the street. Do you ever think maybe our laws make things worse? Because Garen literally just chased down a mage in the street and sent her to jail. Garen's like, hold your tongue. Without those laws, this great civilization would fall. Do you want to risk another rune war? Literally referencing the rune wars there. Remember, Demacia was built after the rune wars as like a safe haven from magic. Really was a safe haven from the rune wars, and mages helped build Demacia, but it's been twisted over time for people to believe that the rune wars was solely caused by magic itself, and that magic in itself is evil. She says that was 1,000 years ago. Okay, what about Silas of Dregborn? Is that mass murder recent enough? That's why we must keep mages and all magic out of this kingdom. It is the only way to keep us secure. And I'll talk about Silas soon. But she says, yeah, secure. So you can see she's already compelling, like dealing with that emotion of her being a mage and her brother freaking hating mages. Oh, and man, Demacia has such cool visuals. It really does. I love Demacia. It's a pretty city. Meanwhile, Lux lives in constant terror. Her story, Flesh and Stone, shows her running from her classroom after an accidental burst of magic, sobbing in the woods, and she thinks of the consequences. Then everyone would know she was afflicted with magic. Then when the Annullers would come. Her story is one of isolation, fearing the very brother she idolizes. So stay calm. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's never seen it. Just keep breathing in, out, in, out. It's getting harder to control again. The old tricks aren't working. Only a matter of time before I'm being chased down in the street. I need help, someone to teach me or some way to learn more about. And then she ends up like asking for the book that Garen confiscated. The Catalyst in Chains. The fragile balance is shattered by Silas of Dregborn. As a young mage with the ability to sense magic, he was used by the Mage Seeker before being imprisoned for life. After 15 years in the dark, as his biography recounts, he receives a visitor, Lux. And I don't think you get introduced to Silas as a kid. You never see him as a child until you meet him as an adult. So I think you'd get this scene in like season 2 of Lux meeting Silas. And, she talks to Silas, and Silas realizes that she's a mage. And he's like saying like, I'll teach you how to control it, whatnot. The secret meetings are our season's turning point for Lux. Silas is a teacher, someone who can explain the power she's been forced to hide. For Silas, Lux is the key. He sees in her not just a powerful mage, but a source of magic he can use. He manipulates her into bringing him a forbidden tome on Petricite, from which he learns the stone's greatest secret, revealed in Duran's own research notes. I believe magic is not simply destroyed by Petricite, it simply changes ownership. Petricite soaks up magic, and this stored magic can be extracted and perhaps even reused. Guys, that's massive. That's massive for Demacia. That means all of Demacia has just been freaking soaking up magic. Can you imagine if Noxus learns that Petricite absorbs magic for it to later be reused? Demacia now goes from like this city protected by white stone, magic dampening effects, to literally a time bomb. We see in Mage Seeker, a building does explode. They use the magic to like build up all this power within the building, and then it explodes. So Demacia could just be like a bomb waiting to happen, honestly. Every single wall, every single pillar, every single Petricite object has just been absorbing magic for how long? Wonder if Sona could fit into the story somehow. Isn't she a Demacian? Well, she is Demacian. There's so much story in Demacia. There's so much story, guys, in all these zones. Like Piltover and Zaun, I said it before. Let me switch to the map really quick. Piltover and Zaun had some of the weakest lore in all of Runeterra, and they couldn't even get through a part of the characters. Like, look how many characters there are for Piltover and Zaun. Here's Piltover. I mean, how many characters did we actually get through for Piltover and Zaun? Given that Piltover and Zaun has a pretty large character list because there's so many. For Piltover, we covered Caitlyn. You could say that Camille had an appearance, but she wasn't featured. Heimerdinger, Jace, Vi, and very, very slightly Orianna. So Seraphine, Ezreal, Camille weren't in there. So I would say half the characters in Piltover. And for Zaun, even less than that. No. Echo, yes. Jaina, I don't count the mural. Okay, it was just a mural of her, so that doesn't count. Echo, Jinx, Victor, Singed. Twitch, you could say, was the rat, but that's also, I wouldn't count it. Warwick. That's it. Every single other character didn't make the cut. And the show still felt rushed at the end of Arcane Season 2. I'll say, like, I'm real with you guys. The show, I felt like you could have used another season. It really could have. We missed a lot with Echo and Jinx in that Arcane Season 2 of them interacting and coming. Like, I feel like it just, Echo came back, and then we missed, there was like a time skip there that we could have seen Echo and Jinx kind of talk through a lot of stuff. Well, yeah. So when we're talking about Demacia, really looking at the story and the central characters to that story, I don't know if there's as many characters here as Piltover and Zaun combined. I don't know if Sona is central enough that she needs time in the spotlight, and I wouldn't want to take away from other characters like Garen, Jarvan IV, Fiora, Morgana, and Kayle. I feel like would also be above Sona. Lucian, if you want to talk Sentinels of Light. Xin Zhao needs some time. Vayne, Sylas is going to be a big character. Shyvana, if you want to explore that relationship with King Jarvan IV. It's like there's so much story there that I don't know if Sona could make the cut. Hi, how's your day? Yo, good. This is my favorite part of my day, is talking lore in the mornings with everyone. Honestly, pretty respectful amount of characters, right? Yeah, Demacia is massive. I mean, you want to see a respectful amount of characters. Freaking Ionia, I think, has the most characters. Look at this. Look how many characters are tied to Ionia. Insane. Yep. Where's my news slash story? There we go. So at this point, Lux is meeting Sylas in secret, right? And Sylas learns that Petricite absorbs magic. It doesn't dampen magic. It literally absorbs it. He says, fascinating, this man Durand. What about him? Lux is practicing her magic over here. Sylas has a bunch of books. He perfected Petricite, the very substance that shackles me, suppressing my magic. I should hate him, but I respect him. Still, this book, it doesn't tell enough. I need to know more. If you could find Durand's original text, perhaps we could find real answers. I'm sorry, Sylas. They keep those texts in a vault under strict lock and key. There's no way I could get access. Damn them. I'm sorry. You saw that. I know it's not your fault. Eventually, she does get she sneaks in and get the text for Sylas, and that's how he learns of it. But the problem with that is that the Crown Guard family learns of Lux's secret meetings. It says, creak and then secure the doors. Lux, I may not be your mother, but I'll be damned if I'll watch you drag our family's name through the muck. Aunt Tiana, I was with the Illuminators. We were... Oh, save it. We know you left Prince Jarvan waiting so you could sneak off to the prison to visit some lowlife. It's not like that. You don't know him, Garen. Who, Sylas of Dregborn? I know he's a criminal. You don't know what it's like in there. They're keeping... Stupid girl, do you have any idea of the damage you've caused? You've brought scandal and ignominy to this house. Fortunately, I've managed to make it go away. You will stay right here in this house until this Sylas has been dealt with, implying that he's going to be killed. And Lux goes to the execution, but Sylas realizes that Petricite allows him absorbs magic, right? And Sylas also realizes that if he can see magic, he knows this from back in the past, and we'll get to Sylas's past in a bit. But if he can see it, he can control it. And so Silas is due for execution because Lux's family finds out that she's been visiting him, and they basically put him to death, which is pretty crazy. They're just like, well, Silas is going to be dead, and you need to do your part for the Crown Guard family. You brought scandal and ignominy to this house. But Lux goes to see Silas, and she says, Silas, I'm so sorry. But at the same time, she touches Silas. He says, so am I, little light. And you can see that the magic is passing from Lux to Silas. Then using her stolen magic, Silas proves Garen's worst fear is true in the most public and violent way imaginable. He uses Lux's magic to burst through his chains, and just this is really the beginning of the Mage Revolution. So when the Crown Guard family inevitably discovers Lux's betrayal, it would trigger the central confrontation of the season. Garen is forced to face the truth he repressed for years, but before he can act, Silas is scheduled for execution. The season would climax with Silas's escape, touching Lux and unleashing her stolen magic to break his Petricite chains, proving Garen's worst fears true in the most public and violent way imaginable. And I think this does a great job, this intro, of talking through, So this intro goes through, you're going to understand the background of Silas as well as, Demacia a little bit. This is from the game Mage Seeker.
In this land, magic is as natural as the soil we walk on. But mages are not free. In the kingdom of Demacia, mage seekers hunt for those with magical abilities, locking them in the dark.
This is Morgana speaking, by the way.
Silas of Dregborn, recruited by the mage seekers as a child, was born with the power to sense magic.
I mean, how horrible is this, though? Of all the powers to be born with, you're born of the perfect power to be a rat in Demacia. That's why the mage seekers used Silas, and they liked Silas as a child so much, is because he pointed out mages. Literally, they were like, "Hey, this is a mage, this is a mage." People were just living their lives. Who knows how much actual magic these people had? May not even know that they were magic had magic within them. But Silas is pointing him out. And he actually thought that he was doing good. Mage Seeker is such a great game. I gotta finish it. It is a great game. I freaking love Mage Seeker.
Magic. He saw the truth. That magic is everywhere. One day, Silas took pity on a captured mage. In that moment, he discovered the power to channel her magic.
Yeah, Silas grabbed her and magic went through him. Ended up killing the Mage Seekers. So was he a murderer?
15 years, they locked him up.
And here's that moment that I was talking about.
He stole magic from his only friend, Lux Crown Guard, betraying her to break free of his shackles.
And so begins the Mage Revolution.
Silas's escape has lit a spark. Will he use his power for petty revenge? Or will he start a wildfire that cannot be extinguished?
That's where we'll stop. So that's the start of the Mage Revolution. It all centers around Silas, and I think that would be actually the end of Season 1. So you'd have Season 1 to start with them as kids. There would be a time skip, and then you'd have, Silas, end with Silas breaking free of his chains and starting the Mage Revolution. That's what makes sense to me. So that's Season 1. Season 2 would be the Rebellion and the Black Rose. So with Silas free, the conflict explodes into open rebellion. Season 2 would expand the world, revealing how Demacia's internal crisis becomes an opportunity for its oldest enemies. This is Magic Rising cinematic.
Demacia was not built on a dream. Demacia was built on a lie. All those noble ideals and promises of a brighter future They were never meant for the likes of us. We have been stripped of our freedom, our dignity, our very lives. I say no more. Mages of Demacia, the day has come. It's time we fight back.
Now, if you're not on Silas's side, I don't know. You know, it's hard not to be on Silas's side, really. Because at the end of the day, Silas was a child, manipulated by the Mage Seekers, tries to save a little girl that was about to be imprisoned by the Mage Seekers, takes pity on her, accidentally gets her magic and kills 2 guards who were literally there to imprison a small child, so how much do you care that they died? Ends up being in prison for freaking 15 years before Lux shows up, and then steals her power to set him free and tries to like save the other mages. So, is Silas a bad guy? Absolutely not. Is Garen a bad guy? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. I think Garen is just confused. And the Mage Seeker, he does come around. But at the same, he's just like, Garen is really devout in Demacia and tries to follow Demacian law and follow the teachings of Kael. Because at the end of the day, Demacia kind of left the teachings of Morgana behind and only follows Kael, which is divine retribution. So Garen can become a good guy, but at that time, no, I don't think he's a good guy. At like the time of Silas of Dreadborn. But when he comes around eventually, which I think he will even in Arcane, because it's his sister, then he becomes like the Garen that we like to see. So Silas escapes, ignites a full-blown mage rebellion, and gathering exiled and hidden mages to his cause, a journal entry from a non-mage and worn diary scrap provides a humanized look into his rebellion. So these are scraps of paper that we find on the floor in the game Mage Seeker that have little notes. One note when we're in our mage camp says, "This camp is a bit scary for a non-mage like me. My brother is safe here. But the people, they're just people, Demacians like me. Every day I'm a little less scared of it." So he literally came into the camp freaking terrified. This shows that Silas's cause attracts not just mages, but anyone disenfranchised by Demacia's rigid society. This is the Mage Seeker gameplay trailer. I really recommend you guys play the Mage Seeker and all the Riot Forge titles. If I get you excited about Runeterra lore, as excited as I am, go freaking play all the Mage Seeker titles. I have over here on my right side, you guys can't see it, the collector's editions stacked up for all the Riot Forge games. They're so good. So with Demacia destabilized, its chief rival Noxus begins to move. This is where the political thriller elements escalate, orchestrated by LeBlanc and the Black Rose. And so this is just a tale of Noxus and then tales of Demacia, kind of showing the stark differentiation between the two. The only reason I ever play Garen in League of Legends is to hear him say, "Demacia!" Yeah, his line is so great. This is actually Garen. I'm not sure why he looks like that in the Tales of Runeterra Demacia. I like him when he's like a bit buffer with shoulder pads, like how you're seeing in Wild Rift right now. And then LeBlanc's also going to come into play, and the root of the Empire and all this stuff, and she's plans within plans. And I think this is a really important note. The War Masons note from a Noxian spy in Demacia lays out their strategy. So there is already Noxian spies in Demacia. Guile should be our watchword here. The keenly timed blade rather than the cudgel. Their fear of magic is turning the ground beneath Demacia to sand, and only the gentlest of pressure will be needed to topple the kingdom. Demacia will bring their collapse upon themselves. And I want to show you guys this one scene in here. You don't have to watch all of it because mostly it's centered around Noxus. But if you look here, right here, this was like Demacia to me. This is someone like standing in front smiling. This I think is King Jarvan the third, so King Jarvan's dad, and that is Sion. Yeah, I think this is Sion killing King Jarvan the third in one of the first Noxian Ionian wars. So she was already aware of Demacia and infiltrated Demacia around this time. That's what I want to show you here. LeBlanc was already in play in Demacia all the way back when King Jarvan the third was killed. Or no, sorry, this is King Jarvan. Man, this is actually not King Jarvan the third dies later. This is King Jarvan maybe the second or the first. Who died in the first Noxian Ionian War? Either the second or the first. It doesn't matter really who, but one of them died in the Noxian Ionian War, and I think that's what the scene is showing. Because Sion, that was during that time. So the pressure could come from Katarina Dukutu. And you could see Katarina and Garen fighting here. So we could see this fight in Arcane. One thing about the power here, some people are like, but Garen does magic. I'll say this about Garen's power. It's not magic. He's literally like praying to Kale. And so that's Kale's power coming down. Like in a way, it's not magic as much as it's like his faith in Kale and whatnot. So it's actually like prayer in a way. Swain, oh yeah, Jarvan II. I think it is Jarvan II who dies in the first Noxian War. And you could see that's definitely like either a Black Rose spy. I think it's actually LeBlanc impersonating a Demacian soldier watching this unfurl. Swain wouldn't appear yet. I think Swain may be coming in towards the end because Swain doesn't make an appearance in even Piltover and Zon until the last little bit. So I don't even think Swain would show up in a Demacia season, unfortunately. Although they did tease him at the end of Piltover and Zon with the crow, so maybe they should capitalize on that. We haven't even seen Swain in any of the cinematics so far for League of Legends. Yeah, he's just channeling the power from that aspect, like a paladin. Yes, exactly like a paladin, yeah. So it's not like magic. And this is Katarina appearing in the Welcome to Noxus Bite Marks cinematic. So the way this would line up, the way I think this would line up is you see this event in Bite Marks. Oh, I can't play it. I can't play the sound, but you see this event in Katarina in Bite Marks. We know that she's been hired by Vladimir to kill this guy who's supposed to be a host for a darkened weapon, and she is stopped by what's her name again? She's a freaking spider. It's not Elise, right? Yeah, it is Elise. Okay, yeah, Elise. She's stopped by Elise. And I think that this would happen. Would it happen before or after she kills? Because she is going to kill King Jarvan III. I'll get to that. I got to think of timeline. Like, when does this happen compared to that? Because that's going to be the timeline article. Anyways, another Mage Seeker journal, a partially burned note, reveals a direct conspiracy. Thorn, so talking to like one of the Noxian, the Black Rose spies in Demacia, his name is Thorn. Your service to the Pale Woman and our family have been unimpeachable. There is just one final task for you. You shall aid the Sinister Blade in Indecipherable. You do what you will with the Light Mage. She has served her purpose. So the Sinister Blade is, the Pale Woman is LeBlanc. The Sinister Blade is Katarina, and the Light Mage is Lux. So absolutely, the Sinister Blade here, Katarina has something to do, it's indecipherable, but she has something to do with Demacia, and it ends up being that she killed King Jarvan III. The note is directly links them, and the season could see Katarina dispatch to Demacia, her mission creating the chaos that leads to the assassination of King Jarvan III during the Mage Rebellion. It seems like Katarina is just like an assassin for hire at this point. I always felt like she had some loyalty to Swain, but it seems like, you know, whoever pays her, she'll do it. So it looks like she was hired by Vladimir to kill this guy, and maybe she was hired by the Black Rose or someone to kill King Jarvan III, and he ends up dead. Even Silas is surprised. They walk into the room. This is after Silas escapes, and he's like, "Gods, no. Father, the king is dead already?" Like, Silas is confused. Another thing that I want to explore here is keep in mind that Katarina kills King Jarvan III's dad, King Jarvan IV's dad, King Jarvan III, and Katarina and Garen have a bit of a relationship, so I'm going to play these voice lines for you guys.
I will slay you where you stand. Dinner tonight?
You shall fall on your folly. Meet me at the South Docks after dark.
You must be Garen.
And I have never seen you before. Well, this is a surprise.
Not now.
No!
This is if she dies.
War leaves no room for affections. 7002? Oh, I didn't see you standing there.
So that's like a really good thing that can, I think, pull in the story and make it really compelling. Because now you gotta remember, Garen is really good friends and close with King Jarvan IV, and the girl that he likes killed his dad. How are you gonna console that? How is it gonna be reconciled? It's too bad you didn't play League back when they had 3v3 Twisted Tree Line. The Twisted Tree Line, you're talking about in Shadow Isles? The Twisted Tree Line is a thing in the Shadow Isles. If people don't know, that's what he's talking about. I don't think there's an image here. There is a Twisted Tree Line in the Shadow Isles. I don't know if I saw it in Rune King or I read it in the Ruination book. Instead of Baron in Summoner's Rift, they had Vilemaw, who made Elise what she is. Yeah. Yep. This is what he's talking about, the Vilemaw. Legend of Runeterra card. When I do the raid bosses for Shadow Isles, the Vilemaw will definitely be one all to itself. And Elise will be in that raid. The Vilemaw is going to be a raid boss in the RiotMmo. Most definitely. This is the Vilemaw. This is what it looks like. The Vilemaw will absolutely be a raid boss for the Shadow Isles in the RiotMmo. And the card reads, "Who is your god? What can your god do? Will he let you wither and die defending him? Or will he give you life and vitality like no mortal has ever known? Why serve a god who won't serve you?" Elise. So Elise, what she does is what LeBlanc uses Elise for is that Elise can travel to and from the Shadow Isles without like consequences, which is very rare because obviously the Shadow Isles is a damned place. Anyone that goes there never returns. Elise can go back and forth, but Elise must take food for the Vilemaw. And what she takes is Noxians, basically. Elise takes a group of Noxian soldiers and people or whatever to the Vilemaw, feeds her, and then she grabs like, you know, something from the Shadow Isles of value to the Black Rose and brings it back to Noxus. And that's why Elise works with the Black Rose in a way. So yeah, the Vilemaw and the Twisted Tree Line is very interesting lore. So what I was saying was that Katarina and Garen have a forbidden romance, very much so, and Katarina killed, you know, his best friend's dad. So that's gonna be tough to reconcile. The assassination of Garen's king, potentially at the hands of the woman he secretly loves, as well as his best friend's dad, would create a spectacular and tragic conflict. This external plot could also introduce Mel Medarda. Following her mother Ambessa's death in Piltover and knowing the Black Rose's history of manipulation from her own family's struggle, Mel could travel to Demacia to investigate the power vacuum, placing her on a collision course with LeBlanc's schemes. I think if you place these events after the events of Piltover and Zon, right? So now they're all adults. And so if we line up the timeline where Garen, Lux, and King Jarvan the Fourth are kids at the same time as the Noxian Piltover events of them being kids, Vi and Jinx, then Mel would be an adult right now, same with Garen and Lux. And so Mel, I don't think would stand by while LeBlanc's plan unfolds to collapse Demacia. You know what I mean? So I think Mel could get involved here. We could see some flashbacks of Ambessa, so they could make an appearance. And at this point now it's climaxing. You got LeBlanc, she's starting to make an appearance. Mel's starting to make appearances, old familiar characters. I think that would end season 2. Katarina and Garen are now kind of getting much closer, and Katarina maybe hasn't told Garen that she killed the king. Then there's season 3, Divine Wrath and Ancient Evils. With the king dead, the kingdom fractured, and Noxus circling, season 3 would see the conflict transcend mortal politics and delve into the divine and damned. The very soul of Demacia is up for grabs. There's a cinematic of Kael and Morgana.
Kael, blinded by the shadows your light casts.
Here to make excuses for their darkness, sister?
So here's what you have to remember about Kael and Morgana. Kael and Morgana are two halves of justice. Their mother is Mahita, the aspect of justice. You can literally see Mahita in Legends of Runeterra. She's a card. This is their mother. She doesn't look like her mother there, but there's another card for Mahita as well. There's another card that actually shows Mahita. That's like Mahita, aspect of justice, universe Mahita. There, that's the art for her. That's Mahita, the aspect of justice. That's Kael and Morgana's mom. And eventually Kael and Morgana are just, you know, living their lives in Demacia because their dad took them and ran away to Demacia to protect them because their mother was off fighting in like these wars, right? She's the aspect of justice, so she's trying to uphold justice in the world. The aspect of justice actually, you know, she's an aspectual host, like Diana and Leona, similar. Eventually, they see their mother's sword fall in Demacia and it splits in two. So think of that sword embodies justice. Mahita's sword. But then Kael and Morgana each have a piece of the sword. We can see that in where's the cinematic? Still here. Let me just show this. You can see Kael and Morgana, and each of them have a piece of the sword. I want to show you guys this really quick, and then we'll go back. Look at the, see, Morgana has a sword, and Kael has a sword. They both have two halves of their mother's sword, and so they each embody a half of justice, both flawed because of it. Morgana embodies forgiveness, and like that kind of thing, like forgiving and like atone, but you're not going to be damned forever. Kael embodies punishment, and you can't have justice without both forgiveness and punishment. Some things cannot be forgiven, and some things should be forgiven, and that's how. And some things need to be punished. That's just the way it is. Like even in our world, some things you can forgive. Some things require a little bit of time to be forgiven, and some things can never be forgiven. The problem with Morgana is she wants to forgive everything, and everyone's going to be okay, and it's even no matter what you've done, it's fine. Kael wants to forgive nothing. If you step on a rock the wrong way, well, you're going to be damned for all eternity and burn in immortal fire. Who is their father? He died when they were during their fight. Kael and Morgana got into a fight, and their father died in the process. The reason they fought was because I think it had to do with, so Morgana killed Morgana was off forgiving people, right? And a lot of the followers who really liked Kael didn't agree with Morgana forgiving everyone. They thought it was wrong. And so to counteract that, let me put this image here. I'll put this like that. So to counteract that, one of Kael's followers goes to imprison Morgana. The problem with this guy is that he was kind of Kael's lover. Like Kael seemed like they were in a relationship. But he tried to imprison Morgana. Morgana is literally an aspect host, kind of half aspect host. And so she kills him. The guy was an idiot. Kael comes back pissed. And so she starts raining fire on Demacia. Literally I'm going to destroy everyone. This world will pay for what they did in killing him. Morgana flies up to stop him. They get him into a fight. And then Kael's father dies. And Morgana's father dies. I have a video on it. I have a whole video on why Demacia is magist. Yeah, let me see. Why Demacia is magist.
Welcome to Demacia.
I'll show you guys.
A strong, lawful kingdom with a prestigious.
I'll show you guys the intro. It's pretty funny.
Because it looks like the Demacian mage seekers have found another one of those magic demons. Let's take a closer look. This is Mage Seeker 1, hot in pursuit of an unidentified mage heading south on Everpeak Road toward Adisa Street. They appear to have some kind of magical device in their position.
I was supposed to be selling this crystal orb to Yordles in the Bandlewood. This blasted teleportation spell sent me to Demacia.
This is Chief Mage Seeker on radio frequency 253.
I put a lot of work into the intro, needless to say. But what I wanted to show you guys is the wing protectors stuff. So Kael and Morgana, they were born in Targon under Mahita, and their father takes them to Demacia to protect them because their mother's off fighting these crazy wars. Eventually, Kael and Morgana in Demacia, their mother's sword literally falls from the sky and shatters in two. They pick it up, and then they end up, fighting each other because of what I was just talking about with Kael's kind of guy. And then, Morgana puts down her mother's sword and goes to try to console her father who's dying on the ground. Kael's sad, but at the same time, she picks up the other half of the Morgana's sword. Now she has both halves, and she goes back to Targon to try to be with her mother. Well, Morgana bounds her wings in chains and goes to the forest and, makes her own way in Demacia, forgiving and taking care of the mages and stuff like that. So that's my why Demacia is magist video. It's a pretty good video if you guys want to check that out. So that's the story of Kael and Morgana. There's also Tariq, who has ties to Demacia. He faced the Trial of Stones, ends up actually climbing. So I'll get into that. But Demasia's founding myths are tied to two sisters, Kael, the embodiment of fiery justice, and Morgana, the advocate for mercy. Their epic history is detailed in their respective biographies, and the poem, The Fallen and the Fury. In the present, with the Mage Seeker twisted justice into oppression, these myths would resurface. Morgana, known as the Veiled One, could emerge and protect the persecuted mages, as seen in the journal Suffer the Little Children. And that's happening in Mage Seeker. So again, in Mage Seeker, this is Morgana talking. Now let me make it.
Will he use his power for petty revenge?
He's actually supposed to start here. This is the truth about Demacia.
Long ago, magical forces of destruction rained chaos upon the land. Some survivors found a safe haven, a secret place where magic was dampened. A forest of stone trees that seems to repel the worst evils of the Rune Wars. Safe at last, it was here that these refugees found.
Look how magic is helping build the city. Look at the guy in the back.
They harvested petricite and built cities that would keep everyone safe from the magical horrors outside their walls.
The winged protectors both here now, helping protect Demacia.
Here, magic was harnessed for good. Mages used their powers to make the city stronger.
Now I think this is where the Black Rose comes in.
The winged protectors were venerated for using magic to shield the city. Their wings still decorate Demacia's walls. But over time,
their history is rewritten.
Was rewritten.
This is the Black Rose, I think.
Power harnessed fear, blaming the Rune Wars on magic itself. Thus, the Mage Seekers were formed. Zealous in their hatred, they banned all magic and brought terror
using fear
to the mages. Within its own walls, Demacia was under siege. Mages hid,
destroyed it from within.
Soon, Demacians believed that their nation was founded not as a safe haven from evil, but as a safe
just a small twist.
But magic cannot be hidden for long. It persevered in shadow and secrets. And people need magic, whether they admit it or not.
This lady's like healing someone in some hidden alcove.
I would know. I hear their prayers every night.
Yeah. So that's the truth about Demacia. Like, over time, they forgot about the forgiveness of Morgana, and that's why Demacia really just embodies Kael at this point, which is like, you know, divine retribution and punishment is the problem. The celestial drama could also involve Tariq. His biography clarifies that when he faced execution for abandoning his post, it was Garen who saved him. So Tariq really had trouble with the way Demacia was run. Tariq kind of loves everyone and thinks, you know, what they're doing with the mages is wrong, and thinks that there's like, you know, people should be more understanding in a lot of ways. He doesn't really agree with Demacia. He also like gets distracted by the beauty of the world a lot. One time he gets distracted and leaves his post, and his entire company dies, his captain and everything. And this is like punishable by death. Keep in mind, Demacia, punishment, not forgiveness. There's no Morgana forgiveness in Demacia. And so him abandoning his post and then all of his company dying and his captain dying is punishable by death. However, his best friend is Garen, so seeking mercy for his friend, Garen intervened. As the sword captain's successor, he sentenced Tariq to endure the Crown of Stone. Though the Crown of Stone usually allowed the dishonored to simply flee Demacia and start a new life in exile, Tariq took the first step heading south and swore to actually atone for what he had done. And the Crown of Stone is sentencing to climb Mount Targon, which is an impossible feat. Usually, if you actually try to climb Mount Targon, you're pretty guaranteed to die, especially someone from Demacia. You're not even from Targon. So to attempt to climb is going to kill you. But there's no one in Demacia over in freaking Targon making sure that if you're sentenced to the Crown of Stone, that you go down here and try to climb the mountain. So pretty much if you're sentenced to the Crown of Stone, you go live your life in Knockmerch or, you know, somewhere else in Runeterra. You head to Bilgewater, Piltover and Zon, wherever you want, but you just can't stay in Demacia anymore. Tarik's climb up Mount Targon transformed into the Aspect of Protector, and his return to a broken Demacia would force him to confront the failings of his homeland and the friend who, bound by duty, had to make a terrible choice to save his life. So do I think Tarik will make an appearance? I think Tarik will appear, but then he'll go to maybe climb the Crown of Stone. You'll see the sentencing. It's possible they could exclude him altogether just because there's so much story within Demacia that maybe he's not worth like giving that spotlight and then leaving open-ended, because he does end up in Targon and there's no actual lore that says that he returns to Demacia ever. The darkness feeds. Demacia's fear and turmoil make it a beacon for ancient evil. A chilling, unopened letter from a Mage Seeker commander reveals a horrifying conspiracy. Every day we hear stories about demons from the common folk. We swept Fossborough under the rug for a reason. Blame the mages. Walk out clean. But now something is pulling these creatures into populated areas. A lot of people don't know this. Mage Seekers are literally blaming demonic attacks on mages to keep instilling fear within the people. And that's why at the beginning of this cinematic, listen to the beginning of this cinematic, guys. Listen to what he says.
A full tankard in a warm tavern was the plan. Not extra watch.
Whole countryside's on edge after Fossborough.
Yeah. Filthy mages.
Yeah, filthy mages.
They show up here, and I'll come. Tedric? Hey, Tedric!
Help me!
Tedric!
Fiddlesticks is so freaking terrifying. Fiddlesticks is a demon, and he feeds on fear. So the Mage Seekers are actively covering up demonic activity, blaming it on mages. A series could explore this through terrifying vignettes, such as Villager's account of Fiddlesticks, Since I Saw the Scarecrow, or a journal detailing the fatal encounter with Evelyn. This rising tide of darkness is the perfect entry point for the Ruination. A series could do justice to the storytelling by focusing on its Demacian victims and heroes. Vayne, a noble house whose family was murdered by Evelyn, is a remorseless monster hunter, and Lucian, a former Demacian, joins the Sentinels of Light to fight the black mist that claimed his wife. Their personal crusades would collide as Viego's mist descends upon their fractured homeland. And so this is like Demacia being covered by the black mist. And I love these shots because it really shows you what Demacia could look like potentially, you know, in the Riot MMO. Like Demacia could be that beautiful. That's a great shot of Demacia, and you can see the black mist rolling in. And these are the events of Lucian. You can see the Shadow Isles event trailer, Lucian versus Thresh, and these go in order. So if you want to go to the article, you can watch these. There's like Lucian going on a boat. He's climbing this, and he ends up fighting Thresh. Right here. Yeah. Such an awesome cinematic. So this is Lucian's and Senna's story is a pretty long one. I don't want to belabor that, but he's going to try to save Senna, or at least, you know, not really save Senna. He doesn't know that she's alive, but kill Thresh, who he thinks killed Senna. And that's a whole story that you could explore in the Ruination series. And I think that could be really good for like the Demacia. And they could maybe fix the Sentinels of Light event, which I think did a little bit of damage to the lore, especially with a couple major characters. And then there's the Jinx question. Could Jinx, the loose cannon of Zon, ever appear in Demacia? Canonically, they've never met. Like, Lux have Demacia, Jinx has never been there in the lore, and she's never met Lux. But however, the thematic parallels are too strong to ignore. Both Jinx and Lux grapple with immense uncontrollable power that isolates them from their families. Both have complicated, painful relationships with a sibling who represents the established order. Vi for Jinx and Garen for Lux. And by power for Jinx, I mean like, you know, the what's it called? The shimmer that she gets injected with. I feel like that's really where Jinx and Vi almost like completely separate and diverge in their paths, is when Jinx gets injected with the shimmer, and that really changes Jinx a lot. Seeing these two characters interact would be a fascinating what-if scenario. Jinx, a chaotic force of nature in the most orderly and rigid kingdom in the world. Lux, who has only ever known fear and secrecy regarding her magic, meeting someone who revels in her own destructive power. While purely speculative, a storytelling where a wandering Jinx ends up in Demacia could provide a powerful mirror for Lux's own journey, forcing her to confront what she fears she could become. So this is my story arc tier list. I'll end with this. The Arcane Demacia series. S tier, I think the Mage Seeker Rebellion needs to happen. And if you're going to explore the Mage Seekers, you got to explore the Rune Wars. That involves Rise and his story. If you go here to the map, I want to show this really quick. Who needs a map? Or not who needs a map. Call of Power. This is the story from Rise. It's with the cinematic that I have in the article. You could see the Demacian vault. Deep beneath the ancient Petrosite groves, Rise has found a forgotten vault where the volatile energies of the world rune shards can be safely contained. So it's underneath the Petrosite tree, and that's where he puts them. And that's literally right there. So very close to Demacia. I think exploring the Rune Wars is a very good thing and should be explored with Demacia's story. A tier, so something that we should include, but like it's not as important as the Mage Seekers and the Rune Wars story for Demacia. Noxian intrigue in the Black Rose, and the myths of Demacia, Kael, Morgana, and Taric. I think that those would be very compelling and should be included. Now we go to C tier, or B tier, the Ruination and the Sentinels. I think that would be after that priority list. A major external threat that could serve as a powerful late season arc, testing the already broken kingdom with a supernatural plague, and introducing characters like Vayne and Lucian. Then C tier, after that would be like the Primal Demons, Fiddlesticks, and Elevilin. These horror elements serve to illustrate how Demacia's internal chaos makes it vulnerable to ancient evils that feed on fear. The Rune Wars and Rise, this would be like delving into them deeper. A background element for that could be the Demacia's fear of magic and cosmic stakes hidden within its borders. So a little bit more on the Rune Wars and Rise. Then the Freljord Raids in Serwani would be D tier. Serves to show the external military pressures on Demacia. Provides a crucial step in Silas's journey for power, but is less central to the core Demacian identity crisis. So that's how I would rank them on a priority list in terms of what stories I want to see in Arcane Season 3, right, air quotes, for Demacia. Hi, I'm a new subscriber. I really love the Dark and Lore video. Oh, thanks. That you made somewhat recent. Yo, thanks, Moses. Yeah, I want to get back to that. I just have to find the time. Now with the website and like with these live streams where I have talking like lore with everyone, it's hard to find the time to invest like a whole month into creating these videos, because that's how long those videos take me. Why do you have a feed of your keyboard? Oh, just like me to interact a little bit, show my hands. Usually when I'm playing, you can see my hands, I guess, kind of thing. I just don't like to show my face. Just a personal preference. Smosis, thanks so much. It means a lot to me. Honestly, you like my Dark and Lore video. I have a ton of other ones that I recommend you check out. There's the Demacia's Mages video. If you go to like my channel videos, I think there's a playlist. I think it's called like General Runeterra Lore or something like that. Yeah, General Runeterra Lore. These are all great videos that are like that one. Like the Dark and Lore one. There's the Ionia's Tree, Runeterra's Doom, Demian Lore. This one's a great one. If you watch these two, watch them in order, because the character at the beginning of it carries forward into the Yordle one. So those are kind of the videos that I really put like a month into it. I'm sure the website keeps you busy. It does. RiotGrove.com. Because I have a lot of plans for it. A lot of visions for how I want the website to be, and I want it to grow. And keeping like the website updated and the news up to date, it does take some time. It's not like these articles take nothing, right? Like every single one of these articles takes time to make. And I like to make it a little bit, you know, in terms of like functionality, easier to read. So always making improvements. And there's other stuff that I want to work on and grow, like the models page and the database page. So I got a lot of plans. I really love the lore, and your editing makes it really fun to watch. Yo, thanks, Moses. That means so much. Seriously, you have no idea. Alright, guys. I gotta drop. Thanks, everyone. I'll catch you in the next one.